steel is real, bro. We've all heard it, right? But is it really? Welcome to this episode. Sit down, grab some coffee. Let's go. Roll the intro. Hello everyone, how are you? This is your boy DC coming at ya. I am not that DC, nor am I the Rainmaker. Thank you for spending time with me today. This channel is sponsored by my own damn wallet and brought to you by your engagement. So please spend the time to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. Feel free to ask any questions down below in the comment. Tell me I sucked. Tell me you agree. Whatever. I would appreciate it. I don't show you any demo press bikes that I have to return after 2 rides. I am not a bike shop that I need to sell you anything. I am not a dime magazine business where I am chasing advertiser money just to stay in business, nor do I wish to be some douchey social media influencer. God, I hate that. I am trying to be as unbiased and as transparent as possible with you, just as a normal guy that you're gonna run into on any Saturday ride out there. Perhaps I smoked you last weekend. Perhaps you'll smoke me next weekend. Just a normal dude you're gonna see down the road. Over the last dozen years or so, I've had the pleasure of owning and putting a ton of miles on all these fine bikes. And today I'm gonna talk about Cinelli Vigorelli Disc Road and kind of compare how I feel about the bike against all these other bikes that I owned before. All right, so someone correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't the name Vigorelli, isn't that a model by Cinelli that's more popular and famous in another discipline in cycling, the track cycling? So I guess what they did is Cinelli took that frame set, then made it disc brake capable and slapped on bits so that the frame could be adapted to road cycling, and that is what I'm showing you today. So if you haven't checked the other episode, I will link it right here. But basically, I picked up this frame set. It's a new old stock. It's a 2021 model frame set, but I ended up picking it up late last year or early this year? They had it, the Pros Closet had it on sale for $3.99, brand new. And then I found a coupon online and applied the $50 off. So I ended up getting the frame set for $3.49. Columbus steel tubing, Cinelli branded, absolute gem with the carbon steerer for $3.49. So how could I not get it? So to be truthful with you, if it wasn't for this YouTube channel, I might not have gotten it, but then again, at $3.49, I might have just picked it up whether I had this channel or not. The frame set out of the box is not DI2 capable, so the very first thing that my mechanic Jeff had to do, and I almost couldn't believe my eyes, but also at the same time, I was being a little bit over dramatic because it's a steel. It's not like a carbon where punching a hole through the frame could create some issue down the road. It's just steel. So what Jeff had to do was drill a hole right through the C-tube so the DI2 cable could have a hole to exit out of to feed the front derailleur. So that is something that we had to do right out of the gate. Italian Columbus steel tubing that looks absolutely mint with that bright blue paint job with that sparkle finish underneath. This is a looker and you can take that to the bank. My purpose when I picked up this frame was to build an everyman bike because steel, the material, lends itself to those of us that's not racing to put food on the table. It's not for necessarily someone that's chasing that Wade Weenie build. So it's just us casual riders, the enthusiasts. Not to say you can't race this thing crit, and I'm gonna talk more about the ride characteristics as I go on, but I mean, it is definitely a fast, racy bike. But my purpose was to build everyman's bike. So with the steel frame set that I got, I paired it with the Shimano 105 Di2 12-speed. Again, I wasn't looking to go with the Dura Ace or even Ultegra because I was going for something more budget friendly, if you could call 105 Di2 budget friendly. So that and kind of stay sensible with the build. So I ended up using a stem that I had. I ended up using a bar that I had. The stem is 100 mil in length. It's a 0 degree, so it's parallel to the ground. And the bar that I already had, which was a S-Works, some kind of a bar, I forget the name, it's carbon, 38 mil width. So that was thrown on there. Then I had to pick up a seat post, the 31.6 mil diameter seat post. So I looked on Amazon. I picked up this seat post for $30 from a company called Road NATO. I think it's a China brand. And boy, one, it looks a hella nice. Two, this seat post absolutely just awesome. So I'll talk more about that later. And then the saddle is again, it's an AliExpress buy. But here's the thing, I forget whose video I was watching. I think it was a bike fitter, some kind of a bike fitter. And he was saying how nice this saddle was, despite that it's a Chinese saddle from AliExpress at budget price. So I was like, naturally, I'm gonna have to try that for the channel. I had it, and then I was looking at this bike. Okay, so every man's bike, we're gonna be budget conscious. Let's go with the saddle. So instead of my modern favorite, which is the Selle Italia Superflow Boost, I slapped on this saddle. I think it's called Mixed 5D. It's about $27 on AliExpress, and this saddle is just money. Don't let the price tag fool you. My ass could not distinguish the difference between the $300 saddle versus the $25 saddle. This is how nice this saddle is. And then the wheel set that I chose to use was Windspace Hyper 23. And I think the number 23 just means that the wheel set is a 2023 model. It has a stacked configuration. I forget the exact rim depth, but front wheel slightly more shallow. The rear gives you a little bit more depth. I think it's somewhere like a 44 and a 53-ish. Don't quote me, I will just put a text right here of the actually exact depth. But the Windspace Hyper 23, the wheel set was chosen, and I put on Pirelli Cinturato tires, the tubeless tires. And the reason why I went with those tires, so during my ownership, the Cinelli Vigorelli was written mainly in LA. And LA, in some parts, road condition isn't that great. And I don't mean the road condition as in like a condition of pavement. I mean like shards of glass, broken beer bottles on bike lanes and such. So I didn't care for that. So I wanted something more puncture proof. So I went with the sturdier tires than what I normally ride, which would be either the NV SES tires or the Pirelli P0s. And then, as mentioned earlier, with the Shimano Di2 105 group set, I slapped on 105 5034 crankset paired with the 1134 cassette. Chain was waxed, obviously, and then power meter of the choice was some previous gen Ultegra Stages power meter, left arm only, that was equipped with the bike. This frame is small, and let me give you some relatable data here. So normally I ride a small or something like a 51, 52. And normally what I'm looking for is a stack of about 510 to 525-ish and a reach of somewhere of 380 to 385. This frame set comes with the stack of 515 with the reach of 392. So it's low and long. It's very aggressive. And then the wheelbase comes in at 976 for the size small frame that I have. So it is nimble and it is snappy in terms of handling. And the wheelbase is basically the same as my Super 6 Evo and the Specialized Tarmac SL8. So handling does not suffer just because it's some kind of a steel framed bike. You might be thinking, oh, steel frame equals endurance or plus your ride. While the ride quality definitely does differ just slightly from carbon-based frame set, the handling is absolutely money. Handling is absolutely fast and it's aggressive. I said that earlier, and that word may come back again later in this episode. And to give you context, my Cannondale I ride 51s, Specialized I ride 52s. Canyons, because they you have to size up, I ride extra small. Giant, I ride the small. My PMC was 51, my Orbea was 51, my Pinarello was 51 and a half, my Factor was 52, my Cervelo, I ride 51. So you get the drift in terms of how the sizing is for this frame. So my last steel frame bike was maybe 30 years ago, in like late 80s. So I mean, I've seen steel bikes, of course, since then, but I'm not gonna sit here and act like I'm some kind of a steel frame bike aficionado, because I'm not. So the silhouette of the bike, the profile of the bike harkens back to yesteryear, looks very classic, looks very, I mean, you might even call it vintagey, right? You got all the tube shapes are round, just perfect steel tubes. It's got, it doesn't have a drop C-stays, nothing gimmicky. There's nothing oversized, anything. It looks just, It's the quintessential bike when you're thinking of, oh, bike. It looks like that. It's clean, it's nothing you don't need, but has everything you need on a bike. The deep blue paint job with all that sparkle with a little hint of pink here and there in their logo, and inside of the fork with the little personality showing finish, little fun patterns that Cinelli decided to throw in. It's a very fun looking bike. It's easy on the eye, definitely. It looks stunning and it's gorgeous, and I cannot speak enough about how awesome it looks. When I first took it out on the ride, I immediately noticed, what I first noticed was how narrow the top tube looked as I was looking down pedaling. I'm like, wow, that top tube is just narrow. Because, you know, the modern day carbon bikes, you're gonna have some elaborate shaping, like the Pinarello Fs will have this humpback design with the taper and like different oval shape on some other manufacturer models, and nothing of that sort exists here. It just looked very narrow, and I just still remember that vividly. The single most important thing that I need to say right out of the gate in this section is that this is not some plush geometry, endurance geometry bike that you're gonna find, you may associate with typical steel frame bikes. This bike is low, it's long, and it's mega aggressive. This bike wants to be ridden hard, it needs to be ridden fast. The geometry induces you, the rider, into that position. Now, along with that, I also had my cockpit completely slammed, so my position was just the frontal area was just low, head down, and just go. However, the ride quality is also very sublime. The geometry puts you in that position, but also at the same time, I found myself often when I'm out, because I'm so careless, I'm on a steel frame bike, you know, it's not about just watts, it's not just about just, you know, smoking somebody else in a group ride. I felt like just, I wanted to connect with the bike in a different, like at a different level. Sounds completely douchey, I know. It made me feel, just enjoy the ride that much more. I don't know why. I guess it's the material that lends itself, because you look at the tour right now, everybody's gonna be on mega rocket ship carbon bikes. Nobody's racing steel. And, you know, even though steel was the material of choice 4 decades ago as pros were racing, that's not how it is today. The steel is very purpose made and purpose ridden, and I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but I'm just out there, found myself enjoying the ride on beautiful Santa Monica, Ocean Boulevard, the main street, and just by the beach. It's just awesome. The quality is smooth. Now, I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that what everybody else is telling you on YouTube, how steel bikes ride this way or that way. I don't know how much of that really is true. It might be people saying for the sake of saying things. It rides slightly differently than your typical plastic carbon bikes. The difference is there. Does it completely eliminate any and all road vibrations? No. Do you feel less of that? Sure. So, you know, I play guitar, so it's easier for me to explain it this way, but sound wave is this, right? And more of this wave pattern you have, more vibration you're feeling. Way steel is gonna do is this. Instead of this is the vibration you're getting. I don't know if that makes sense. That's how I feel when I'm on it, so there. So the personality is indeed different based on the material that the bike is made with, but this is a fast bike nonetheless. It's kind of odd because wants to go fast, but equally at the same time, it is very well mannered and well poised and well behaved and carries a certain, like a dignified personality. So it does this Jekyll and Hyde thing. Not like the Super 6 Evo that I also used the analogy of Jekyll and Hyde in that episode, if I recall correctly, but this bike does Jekyll and Hyde differently, where in terms of it is a bike that wants to be pushed hard, but also at the same time gives you this kind of a relaxed personality. Does that make sense? Continuing on with the whole compliance situation. So up at the front, I'm running my Carbon S-Works bar. Zero fatigue at the front, no matter what the distance is that I was riding. I mean, I've done a couple centuries, I've done a couple long rides. No issues at the front with the carbon fork. And then in terms of what is under my ass, the aforementioned the Chinese saddle and Chinese seat post. Listen, the combined together, those two components cost me like $55. And even after long rides and what have you, combined with the, you know, inherently the steel obviously adds to your compliance, but the seat post, fantastic. Now, what the bike industry will tell you is the smaller the diameter of the seat post, because of the flex that's going to be introduced by the seat post, you will have a more compliance. Hence, I believe Cannondale at one point even did a seat post that's only 25.4 millimeter diameter seat post, like what I had on my Cannondale Synapse some years ago. But so I was thinking 31.6, because I remember 31.6 from some years ago, and my ass did not like it. But I tell you what, the carbon seat post from Amazon that I picked up for $25, absolutely stellar. I cannot recommend highly more, whatever the English expression that I'm messing up right now, I recommend highly. The saddle, I recommend highly. Absolutely stunning for the price. So is everything rosy? No, and one in particular. So my other bikes, my Cervelo Soloist, Cannondale Super 6 Evo, Specialized Tarmac SL8, all come with the the chainstay measuring at 410 millimeters. This thing comes even shorter at 406 millimeter. So, and then the seat stay, where the way the tubes flare out towards the skewers, the through axle adapter, so apex of the width, they flare out and it introduces heel strike. So as I'm pedaling, my heels would come in contact with the chainstay at times, and that's with my 43 size the shoes. Even with my pedaling isn't like this, I actually go like this. My cleats are set up so my heels actually go outward a little bit, so my heels are pointing away from the center of the bike, if you would. So I would be farther away technically from the seat stays, but even then at the same time I'm still hitting the chain stays every now and then, so that I don't really care for. Steel is a material that is tried and true, proven over many decades. $349 frame set price or not, this is what a fantastic ride. And I would like to say this is a bike that must be experienced in the sea of carbon bikes that almost indistinguishable. I mean, how many bikes out there currently look just like Specialized, the Tarmac? Just about every bike stole something from that bike, or maybe Tarmac stole something from another model. So every bike pretty much look the same out there, and here's something that looks classy. It's kind of vintagey vibe, and there's nothing gimmickry here, and just a stunning paint job, everything to boot. This is a bike to be experienced for sure. And then especially with all these matte black carbon bikes out there and you're standing out there with this thing, you definitely stand out. And then the way I built it with the Shimano 105 Di2, all the modern day goodness, all that crisp shifting, all that phenomenal braking, all that modern day convenience and improvement commingling with the material from yesteryear. What a fantastic combination. And notice the components I have hanging on this bike. I mean, this is the bike that your favorite tour pro is going to ride. Now, those bikes that your favorite pros are riding, you want those bikes? You don't need those bikes. Does something like this, sensibly built with the wallet in mind, this is a bike that is not only enjoyable, but it's with the inherent material and everything. Could be a bike with all the modern improvements added to it. It's something that you could enjoy all the modern goodness, but also connect you to cycling's rich history from decades and decades ago when the steel is what ruled at the time. Is steel real at the end of the day? Well, I mean, carbon is no less real than steel, so I don't know if that's a real argument to be had, but I would just say different personalities, different traits. I think it's worthwhile for you to experiment if situations allow. Now, in this episode, I didn't bother to do the would I rather section, which I introduced a couple episodes ago, where I would pit the subject bike versus another bike from my past and kind of go, hey, if I had to choose one from these two, what would I pick? And I would usually run down all the different bikes I had. I am not going to do that here in this episode because the steel, the material itself kind of lends itself to apple to an orange situation. It's just not right when you compare, hey, would I pick a Cinelli Vigorelli versus Specialized Tarmac? That's a little different because applications would be different and it's literally apple to an orange. But I want to say this in the parting shot. I want to talk about BMC Road Machine compared to my Cinelli Vigorelli. Now, BMC Road Machine, what I had was now a previous gen because just a couple weeks ago they introduced the new gen, which now takes like a 40 mil tires and all that. So that bike was the one bike collection as they advertised it back when I bought mine. And it wasn't necessarily as fast as their Team Machine SLR, but the Road Machine was your one bike that could conquer everything. You could do tarmac, you could do pavement, you could do some dirt and mix the terrain and endurance focus the geometry, and it was a great bike. But I felt that its delivery was short on its promise, especially now that I think of it, because at the time I was really enjoying it because I was going through the phase of more comfortable is faster. I wasn't necessarily going for lightweight or the aeros. I wanted something more comfortable and I was in love with that bike. But even if you go back and watch my review episode for that bike now, I mentioned how the twitchy the front end was, and that bike had a wheelbase that's over close to 1,000 millimeter, so close to a meter, and I don't know if that was more comfortable than my steel bike that I'm showing you today. So while I still can't say would I pick the Cinelli Vigorelli over BMC Road Machine or vice versa, I just want to say the premise, the marketing, the push, what the companies would lead you to believe may not necessarily be true, because I'm finding my Cinelli Vigorelli to be a more compliant bike with a more sure fire handling up at the front, because there's no nervousness, there's no twitchy front end like compared with the road machine. So I was very much impressed with this bike, and especially at the price point that I was lucky enough to acquire. This is a fantastic bike. I don't know if you're gonna have a chance to find something like this, but if you can, and if your budget permits, I would recommend highly that you give it a chance. That's it for this episode. As always, I've been very chatty. I've been Diabetic Cycling. You've been awesome. Until next time, keep the rubber side down. Be safe out there. And most of all, be good humans. I'm out.